All big cities are the same. If you've seen one, you've seen them all. Travelers say this all the time, and yet the words often ring hollow as one explores the culture, people, and unique attractions that make just a big city a world-class city. Johannesburg and its sister city of Pretoria is such a case. Here, high-rises mix with colonial masterpieces. African culture blends seamlessly with Western ambiance, and big game is just a day trip away. Join us today as we visit one of the most iconic cities in South Africa, Johannesburg, city of many faces.
Jumbo. I'm Bill Ball, and I'm going to be your guide on this episode of Journeys in Africa. And this is Africa.
The Africa experience was summed up by Ernest Hemingway when he said, "All I wanted to do was to get back to Africa. We had not left it yet, but when I would wake at night, I would lie, listening, homesick for it already." Join us each week as we explore the entire continent of Africa, from the plains of the Serengeti to the heights of Kilimanjaro and all points in between. We'll introduce you to the history, culture, and wildlife of one of the most exotic and extraordinary places on Earth. Journeys in Africa. Johannesburg and its sister city Pretoria are located in the northeastern part of South Africa in the state of Gauteng. This is the smallest South African state in size, but the largest in population. Johannesburg has a population of 4.3 million, while Pretoria boasts another 1.6. Together with the surrounding suburbs, they form the densest populated metropolis in all of Southern Africa. Johannesburg was founded in 1886 by the Boers or the Dutch. The city's name comes from a man named Johan. Which Johan is actually still up for grabs. South Africa is the engine that drives all of Africa's economy, and Joburg, as the locals call it, is the fuel tank. This is the commercial and cultural hub for this large advancing country. Like New York is in the US, it's not its political capital. That honor partially belongs to Pretoria, where the president and the ministries reside. Now, I said partially because the judiciary is in Bloemfontein and the legislature is headquartered in Cape Town. The best place to get at the cultural roots of Joburg is in the township of Soweto. Soweto conjures up a number of images for the history buff. This was the leading area of dissent and confrontation during the apartheid era. It was also where many of the tragedies of that era unfolded. Unlike other townships, in Soweto there was economic diversity. Nelson Mandela had his home alongside many of the poorest people in the greater Joburg area. Township was a designation the once all-white government gave to enclaves where blacks were forced to live near the big cities. During apartheid, blacks could only venture out of the township if they carried an ID and had a reason to leave, like a job working for a white-owned business. Soweto residents have no such restrictions today, but the economic aspirations of its people remain unfulfilled. But where once whites did not care to venture, now they willingly come as tourists, eager to learn the culture and traditions of its people. Soweto residents have been working hard since the end of apartheid to build a strong community through entrepreneurship and local employment. One of those entrepreneurial ventures is the community tours. Local guides from Soweto take tourists around the neighborhoods and let them meet locals. Our guide is Sewepe. The people here get some income from the tourist fees and help showcase how far Soweto has come and where it wants to head. The tours point out local businesses that reflect the culture.
This here, over there, where you see the tent, that's an African restaurant. Here, they're selling an ox head. So during the day, around 12 o'clock, people will come buy things, food here, and eat.
And they feature one of the cornerstones for the future of Soweto, the newly emerging daycare facilities.
Welcome to Mbizweni.
Daycare is pivotal in the economic development of the area. Having a safe place to leave your children frees the mothers, many single, to seek employment. The daycare facilities also employ women and are locally owned, so the money stays in the community. Best of all, the kids get a head start in education, which bodes well for the long-term prospects of Soweto. The walk through Soweto includes home visits, interacting with locals, and a new deep understanding of what apartheid meant on a human, individual scale, and what is possible once that inhumane barrier was removed. In Soweto, there is one monument that reminds the visitors of a time that didn't hold the promise of the present: the Hector Pieterson Memorial and Museum. Hector became the iconic symbol of a system that went dangerously awry. The apartheid government had proclaimed that the white government language of Afrikaans would be used in half the studies on an equal basis to English. To protest, on June 16, 1976, between 10 and 20,000 students in what would be known as the Soweto Uprising refused to go to school. The police intervened, and by day's end, hundreds of black youth had been killed. Hector's dying body, carried by a fellow student, became an international symbol for injustice. All of Soweto was not poor. There were sections where accomplished blacks lived even during the apartheid era. The most famous of those residents was Nelson Mandela. Nelson Mandela is now the symbolic figure of freedom and accomplishment. He is remembered as a wise, forgiving, yet strong leader that took South Africa through the most challenging period of its history. He embodies success and the pinnacle of power, but it wasn't always like that. For 27 years, Mandela was imprisoned and often forced into hard labor. And yet, he persevered with a belief in a free South Africa that would be a true democracy with equal treatment for all. As the father of modern South Africa, many places claim Mandela slept there, much as many places in America claim the same for George Washington. There is, though, one place that can really lay claim to Mandela sleeping there: his home. Now open for public visits, this is a place admirers, both local and foreign, can get a sense of the man, not just the bigger-than-life force he became. Here in his home, there are things you would expect to find in anyone's place of residence: family pictures, dishes, mementos, and knickknacks collected over a long life of public service. Our visit to Soweto was eye-opening. I asked our guide, Sifaway, what changes he's seen since apartheid.
People started getting opportunities in a lot of different areas. In business, most of young people who had ideas of creating their own businesses, they got opportunity to get that. And also the other thing, I think the mindset, it's free now. It's no longer chained, because before people were thinking different, and they were, because of they were oppressed. They thought that they wouldn't do almost things for themselves because of that situation. But now everyone is free. People can come with concept or anything, they can do what they want.
His optimism was infectious. I could see that the future holds good things for Soweto, as Sifaway explains.
Soweto is becoming a capital of the townships of South Africa.
Time will tell if his predictions hold true, but the community has come a long way since my first visit 10 years ago, where there was little employment, few solid structure buildings, and a growing despair that the rewards of a free South Africa had passed them by. The youth of Soweto have the future firmly in their own hands. After relishing the day spent here, I had one more special treat planned: dinner at one of my favorite restaurants in the metropolis, the Blue Crane Restaurant. Established in 1997, it takes its name from the iconic avian that is South Africa's national bird. The restaurant is located at the edge of one of the lakes in the Austin Roberts Bird Sanctuary. This bird sanctuary within the city limits of Pretoria is a great place for birders to spend a day, or, as we did, have dinner when the many water birds come to roost just feet from the restaurant. The food is superb, and there is a nice bar attached to the eating establishment. But for me, The biggest draw is the exciting bird species that can be seen while dining. There are ducks, ibis, heron, egrets, and grebes, all swimming or wading within feet of the patrons. Of course, the biggest draw of all is the restaurant's namesake, the blue crane. This smallish crane, they don't quite reach 4 feet tall, which is short for cranes, feeds on grasses far from these wetlands during the day. They have the most restricted distribution of any crane in the world, though they are not the rarest. There are about 25,000 blue cranes left in the wild, and with their numbers dropping, causing them to be listed as vulnerable. This is one of the best places to see and photograph this beautiful bird.